While the Coyote 5.0 V8 gave Mustang a glorious new image, the Ecoboost Mustang was one of debate. How could you ever put a 4-cylinder turbo in a Mustang? The Ecoboost Mustang has been out since the 2015 model year, and I had this amazing opportunity to drive this beautiful Millennium Jade bagged Ecoboost Mustang. And I wanted to ask the question, was the Ecoboost really worth changing to? And at the same time, are they even worth the money? So, was the Ecoboost the right decision by Ford? Let's talk about it. Hello and welcome to a 2019 Mustang Ecoboost 10-speed. Back in the day, I drove Bong Su's beautiful manual big turbo Ecoboost Mustang. And before we really get into this build, let's talk about the history of the Ecoboost and why Ford went to the Ecoboost and ditched that V6. Now, the V6 engine, I'm not gonna lie to you, in all the other Mustang years, it was pretty terrible. It was essentially a glorified Explorer engine, but at the same time, it had no power whatsoever. Fast forward to the 2011 model year, and we got the Cyclone engine, the 3.7 liter V6. Now, the Cyclone is the caveat to the V6 argument, because you can single turbo those and make about 650 wheel horsepower. It's pretty crazy. And the Cyclone engine felt very similar to something like a VQ engine. However, the Ecoboost 4-cylinder came in with the S550 model year, and a lot of people were not about it. It being a 4-cylinder turbo in a Mustang, people lost their effing mind. Then you had the argument, well, what about the SVO Fox body that nobody bought? Because Ford was like, hey, Europe is doing turbo 4-cylinder cars, how come can't we? They tried it, America said, no, we can't do it. And then they built the turbo Thunderbird coupe, which was actually faster than the V8 Fox body Mustang, but they didn't want to tell you that. Point of the matter is, 4-cylinder turbos are in Ford's blood somewhere, some way, across the pond and here. They went with the Ecoboost because they felt the power potential was just as good as the V6, and in times where a lot of things were going turbo for gas mileage as well, lower displacement. Now, since 2014 and 2015, since the first time I drove an Ecoboost, jeez, I remember saying its torque was good, but it fell off on its face, very much like a Focus ST in the top end of the power. Very good hard-hitting torque at the bottom end, falls on its face at the top. That made it very usable on corners, etc., etc. But I had never ever driven the 10-speed with the Ecoboost. And now, since we never had a 10-speed with the V6, this is the closest we're gonna get to it. This Ecoboost is painted Millennium Jade. Yes, the R34 Skyline GTR color. It's the only Mustang in the world painted this color. And Millennium Jade on an S550 Mustang looks freaking fantastic. It looks phenomenal. And I kind of like that she kept the retro style grille up front, which I'm not gonna lie to you, I usually hate it. I usually hate this grille. I think it's tacky. But having the chrome with the Millennium Jade, a little bit of black accents, really cleans up this car. Along with that, she chose the same spoiler I have on my S550, which I obviously like, and the Euro taillights. With the red taillights on this, I don't think it would have worked as well. But the Euro tails looks way better. The Ecoboost is lighter in the front nose, it handles very good, and with the 10-speed transmission, it's got a really decent power band. Now, is it gonna blow your mind? No, but is it gonna feel pretty good for a daily commuter in a Mustang body? 100%. And this has exhaust, intercooler, and blow-off valve. She also has a legitimate Mistachrome painted dashboard. There was no expense spared because she has work wheels on an airlift kit. At first I thought this thing was static in the photo and I was like, oh god, that's gonna be miserable, but she did the bagged Mustang. A trend very much arguably started by my friend Rob Raybon back in 2010 or 2011. Can I get that turbo flutter though? Interesting. Okay, so with the manual most of the gears very much feel the same. In the 10-speed, first and second gear don't feel like they have a lot of guts. Third gear though, it really feels like it gets itself going. It feels like there's more power. So check this out, this is second gear on its face, like, and then third gear comes in and starts reeling it out. At the same time, this airlift suspension with these big wheels is actually holding its own pretty good, as long as you know what you're getting yourself into. Oh yeah. That upshift from third to fourth feels really nice. The 10-speed suits the Ecoboost pretty good. It keeps it in power. And a lot of people always ask me, is the Ecoboost worth it as a car? I think as a daily driver, it's a pretty cool car because you have a good-looking Mustang. You can't make the argument as much as the old V6 car where you're like, why would you ever buy the V6? Because a lot of the times, the price gap between the V6 and the GT was not that big. And with this, you know, personally, would I get a Coyote? Of course I would. I'm a Coyote motor fanboy. But the Ecoboost is not a terrible option, especially for somebody's first sports car. They get a blow-off noise, right? They get the experience. This is a hard parker that also feels great to drive. A lot of the times with these stance builds or these show car builds, they're miserable to drive. I mean, absolutely miserable. People will do something wrong with the bags or they'll just have it set up wrong and it just doesn't feel good to drive. It feels too floaty. And the ability of hard parking the car, airing it down, and having that beautiful stance. And then, you know, out of nowhere, you can just go back to normal. And the wheel gap of it being raised isn't as bad as it used to be. Back in the day when you had airbags, you would sit like a monster truck when you were aired up. And it kind of ruined, you know, the kind of vibe of the car. Sport mode. Okay. I feel very, very confident in the corners. Like, you can floor it around some of the corners in the right gear. Now, here's the thing. Is the V6 better than the 4-cylinder Ecoboost? Stock for stock, I would take the Ecoboost. Modified, that's a little bit of a different story because I've actually driven a twin turbocharged Cyclone engine that used F-150 Ecoboost turbos, and that thing was actually pretty fun to drive. Oh my God. That was sick. And also, since this doesn't have a downpipe on it or anything, it doesn't have that notorious Ecoboost rasp you get from a lot of the cars. The owner of this car's name is Savannah, and she has a really funny license plate that says Big Oof. And this car has gone through a lot of different stages. It was a light blue at one point, had a whole bunch of different things, and then she just went completely bonkers with this car and created something very beautiful. It is a looker, and a lot of people say this should have been an OEM color or similar to it. And I see it, I can totally see it. Would have it sold? I don't know, because they had that really interesting gray-green that was on a few of the cars as well, and that did not sell. I have a big saying on this channel saying, you don't have to have the top of the line car to modify a car, right? I've done Corollas before, I've done a lot of different modified philosophies to a car. And a lot of people could argue that this car is not truly a real Mustang because it does have the V8 in it. And yes, it's a Mustang and the parts are crazy available for this. But the way that Savannah did this car was definitely the use what you got mentality. She was like, I'm not even gonna bother by making it big turbo or anything like that. I'm gonna focus on the car's strengths. I can make this car look beautiful, make the ride quality very fantastic, and less floaty from the factory, give it a nice paint job, give the dashboard a nice paint job and some personality. Enjoy the car, bring it to car shows, and have a car for the culture, so to speak. Now, you think that this Mustang accomplishes all those boxes. Now, Ecoboost owners, I don't want you going around telling people that you're the fastest car in the world, because you're not. Is it a good package for the money? It is. These Harleys are so loud in front of me, dude. I say that as I have lawn tube headers and a loud exhaust on my Mustang, like I'm any different. These guys on these Harleys are going 10 miles an hour up this mountain. I thought you were supposed to be American torquing those things. All I'm thinking about right now is that South Park episode with the Harleys. Guys, what do you think about the Ecoboost Mustang? What was your reaction to it when it first was unveiled? And what is your reaction to it now? What do you think of it? Do you just see it as the rental car Mustang? Because that's what you get when you rent a Mustang 90% of the time. Or do you just see it as the inferior? Or do you have a different argument where you say, it's not inferior, it's just different? And on that note, I upload on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Sundays, and I will see you guys next time. Take it easy. Have a wonderful day. Goodbye.